What if I told you that there were an entire class of foods containing specific nutraceutical compounds that not only have a natural antidepressant effect, but actually work on the same mechanisms of actions and involve similar pathways as some antidepressant meds? Well, yes, it is true, and these magical compounds are called bioflavonoids. Hi, I'm Jess, I'm a clinical nutritionist, and today's video is all about exploring the antidepressant actions of bioflavonoids. There's been some emerging research in the past few years looking at specific flavonoids for their antidepressant effect, so I'm really excited to share this information with you. We're going to take a look at 3 very specific antidepressant actions that bioflavonoids have, and then we'll actually look at a few bioflavonoids as an example, going over what foods you'll be able to find these in. But before we get into it, I do want to let you know that today's video is based off of my Bioflavonoids for Depression Blueprint, which is an entirely free downloadable guide that goes over more bioflavonoids that we're going to have time to go over in the video today. So if this is something that interests you, I highly recommend checking that out. It will be down in the description below. So what exactly are bioflavonoids? Bioflavonoids are naturally occurring polyphenols, which are compounds that we get from plant-based foods that have been extensively studied for their pharmacological properties. Currently, more than 5,000 bioflavonoids have been identified, and they're therefore subcategorized into different categories like flavons, flavonols, isoflavonoids, and anthocyanidins, just to name a few. But what do they have to do with depression? Though the many benefits of bioflavonoids and these compounds have been extensively studied, as of recent, like the past few years, there have been several clinical trials and publications looking at the emerging role of flavonoids in the treatment of mental health depressive disorders. The etiology of how flavonoids help with mood is both abundant and complex, meaning that there's more than one mechanism of action on how these help with mood. The blueprint, as well as this video, focuses on 3 mechanisms of actions that appear to be overarching in the literature, which are 1, modification of neurotransmitters, 2, a natural MAO inhibition, and 3, BDNF expression. So let's get into it. Flavonoids and your neurotransmitters. Flavonoids have actually been shown to increase and modulate the expression of various neurotransmitters in the brain, such as acetylcholine, dopamine, GABA, glutamate, histamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, all of which play a prominent role in mood regulation. Flavonoids and MAO inhibition. If you're familiar with traditional antidepressants, you may be familiar with MAO, or the MAO enzyme. MAO is involved in removing neurotransmitters in the brain, such as norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. MAO inhibitors were actually one of the first antidepressants developed, but they have many side effects, so they're actually not used as much anymore. There are several genetic and lifestyle factors that influence how fast or how slow your MAO enzyme functions. So those that have an MAO enzyme that moves a little quickly, basically it means that you may clear out mood-boosting neurotransmitters too soon, and flavonoids appears to offer a more natural, more subtle MAO inhibition without the side effects. And lastly, let's talk about flavonoids and BDNF expression. BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is a neurotrophin that supports the survival of existing neurons and promotes synaptogenesis as well as differentiation of new neurons. Decreased levels of BDNF coincides with most neuropsychiatric disorders and is a common biomarker of depression. This is because decreased BDNF leads to malfunction of synaptic plasticity, which decreases excitatory neurons and glutamate, eventually leading to symptoms of depression. Certain flavonoids have actually been shown to mimic BDNF, which increases its expression and levels in the hippocampus, which is super cool. So now I want to walk you through a few specific bioflavonoids as an example and show you what mechanisms of action are at play out of the three we just went over, and then let you know what foods these bioflavonoids are going to be abundant in. Let's start with the flavonoid that some of you may actually be familiar with. It's pretty popular and it's called quercetin. Quercetin is a flavanol found in fruit, vegetables, herbs, teas, and wine. It is an MAO inhibitor, increasing synaptic cleft serotonin and norepinephrine. Food sources of quercetin are the allium family, like onions, garlic, scallions, shallots, and leeks, capers, fennel leaves, oregano, dill, chives, arugula, watercress, spinach, kale, asparagus, broccoli, chili pepper, apples, grapes, blueberries, citrus fruits, tomatoes, black and green tea, and red wine. The best source of quercetin are the alliums and anything in the allium family. The next bioflavonoid is camphorol. Camphorol is also a flavanol found in fruits, vegetables, herbs, and teas. It increases dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine levels in the CNS with a reduction in serotonin metabolism. Food sources of camphorol are kale, watercress, mustard greens, arugula, endive, turnip greens, spinach, parsley, dill, chives, tarragon, broccoli, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, gooseberries, cherries, black and green tea. The best source of camphorol being leafy greens and herbs. The last bioflavonoid I'm really excited to share with you because it's one of the only ones that contains all three of these properties, and that is naringenin. Naringenin is a flavanone found in citrus fruit, juice, and pills. It is an MAO inhibitor. It increases serotonin, dopamine, noradrenaline, and glucocorticoid receptor levels, and it also increases BDNF expression in the hippocampus. Food sources of naringenin are citrus fruits like oranges, mandarins, grapefruit, lemons, and limes, tart cherries, tomatoes, cocoa, and Mexican oregano. The best source being grapefruit peel, although orange peels work really good as well. So those are just a few examples from the bioflavonoid blueprint. I have my top 10 on that blueprint, so if you want to check those out, like I said, you can download that in the description below. You're also going to be able to download this food list here. That's just a quick reference guide of all of the foods that are high in the bioflavonoids that we discussed, as well as the other ones that are on the blueprint. So now that we've gone over the antidepressant actions of bioflavonoids, giving you a few examples as well as what foods to find them in, you're probably wondering, hey Jess, like how many of these foods do I need to eat to get the antidepressant effect? And I'm gonna let you know that that answer is a little bit complicated. There are some limitations in nutrition science research when it comes to translating what we find through looking at specific compounds to the amount that we would need to get from that in whole foods. So we don't yet have any information that says you need to eat this many apples to get this amount of quercetin effect that will then equal this antidepressant action. But the purpose of this is that we know that these mechanisms of action do exist, and therefore we should really just be incorporating as many of these foods as we can into our diet if we do want to have those antidepressant effects. What I love about the food list that I gave you as an example before is that there's something on there that pretty much anyone can have on any type of diet. I was gonna say except carnivore, but actually those people could have herbs. So there should be something on there for everyone that you could potentially incorporate into your diet and into your life on a regular basis. So maybe you focus on having one specific bioflavonoid meal a day that's really high in bioflavonoids, like a smoothie, which I have a recipe for that also in the guide. Or maybe you do what I do and try and have a salad a day that's really rich in bioflavonoids. There's a lot of different ways that you can increase these, and I have more ideas in the guide below. If you enjoyed this video, then hit the subscribe and notification bell below. The next video I have planned for you is part of a foundation series on nutrition for mental health, so I'll see you in that one.